This week on the Destination Angler.
Funny enough, I remember the ones that I lose beside the boat, the ones I go to grab that pull the hook out, the giant ones that you just, you work your whole life for. And, I don't know how many, 25, 30 pounders that have spit right by the boat that you just have to sit down for 30 minutes and just question your sanity.
Welcome to the Destination Angler Podcast, the podcast for anglers who travel. And I'm your host, Steve Haigh. We go right to the source, the local guides and experts, to build your knowledge of top fishing locations around North America. It's a big world out there. Now go and fish it.
I'm going away for a while, but I'll be back soon. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hey anglers, welcome back to another episode of the Destination Angler, brought to you by Anglers Coffee, perfecting the coffee experience for the fly fishing community and anglers everywhere with small batch coffee delivered to your doorstep. It's darn near perfect. And by Trout Routes, the #1 fishing app helping you find new trout waters so you spend less time on the road and more time doing what you love, trout fishing. We have some tremendous shows coming your way. How about the Tar Heel State and the famous Davidson River for trophy trout Southern style? Then we're headed to British Columbia to explore a few of their 20,000 wilderness lakes. And be sure to backcast to catch the last episode of the Destination Angler on the North Fork of the Shoshone River with industry icon Tim Wade, North Fork Anglers in Cody, Wyoming. The Shoshone may be in the shadows of Yellowstone National Park, but let me tell you, it's center stage for those anglers who have discovered its big, hard-fighting cut bows in a wilderness setting. If you like the show, please tell your buddies about the Destination Angler, and please give us a share, like, or follow wherever you get your podcast. Hey, and if you fish with a guide you've really enjoyed, please drop me a line. I'm always looking for big personalities to be on the show. And today our destination is beautiful Belize for the ultimate challenge on a fly rod. You guessed it, Permit. And our guest is celebrity guide Wil Flack, owner of the Belize Permit Club and Tres Pescados Fly Shop. Permit are considered the holy grail of flats fishing, and Belize is one of the world's top destinations, where daily shots at these moody and elusive game fish are a reality. With over 250 square miles of flats and the world's second largest barrier reef, let me tell you, Belize is a permit and bonefish paradise. A little bit about our guest. Wil is a self-described permit and steelhead fanatic. He's a BC native and has been living and guiding in Belize for the past 15 years and has a killer YouTube channel on flats fishing. Wil has fished worldwide in faraway places like Tahiti, Australia, and Japan, and places closer to home like Costa Rica, Honduras, and the Bahamas, not to mention the U.S. and Canada. And today he gives us a great rundown on Belize from north to south and explains why it's a special kind of angler who chases the ghosts of flats fishing. Wil also takes us into the technical aspects of permit fishing with how weather and tides and techniques affect success, along with a great story of eating jungle rats while fishing for Payara in Venezuela. And be sure to stick around to the end for a rundown on top flies and, as always, our top picks for favorite watering holes for the hungry, thirsty angler. Welcome to the show, Wil.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Just living the dream. I'm actually in Florida at my house right now, getting ready to head back to Belize for the season pretty soon.
All right. So, as I always talk to my guests ahead of the show, and one of the things you said to me that really stuck out is you said permit is a sickness. Permit fishing is a sickness. And I wondered if you could tell us, why is that?
What's
Right?
funny is anytime someone asks me, they want to go permit fishing, I tell them not to do it. It's,
Don't come.
Everyone refers to the permit as the holy grail. It's kind of like the varsity fish. I like to tell my clients, usually people's first introduction into saltwater flats fishing is usually bonefish. That's kind of where everybody starts, and then everybody gets kind of interested in permit and tarpon after that. Bonefish and tarpon readily eat a artificial fly, permit not so much. So it's just one of those things where it's maddening that you could literally find hundreds of permit in a day and throw every single fly at them, presentation, how you fish that fly. You have the best angler in the world on the bow of your boat, and you still cannot get that fish to eat that fly. And
Yeah.
it's maddening, and it's frustrating. You question your sanity on an hourly basis. And yeah, if you really want to be a serious permit fisherman, it's a sickness. It really is. You think about it all the time. You're just trying to figure out that perfect equation to get that next fish in the boat.
Right. It must be incredible once you do get one after all those attempts and those tries that maybe were unsuccessful, then you finally hook one. Is it kind of like a great shot, a great, tee shot in the 18th fairway and, and it brings you back for another round of golf?
Yeah, I mean, every time you think you got it figured out, and you think you got the right fly, and it changes again, and it changes again, and it changes again. And it doesn't matter what you do. It just seems like those fish are always just one step ahead of you.
Yeah.
It really is just maddening all the time. And I think, my buddy Will Benson, I think, said it best. It's just like, you're never happy until you catch the next one. Anything in between is maddening, and you think you're going insane, and then you get the next one and you get that high, and as soon as you let it go, it's misery to get the next one.
Oh my gosh. Hey, sounds like fun. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Something else I've heard about permit fishermen is every permit fisherman has a number. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. If you're a serious permit angler, you have a number, and there's a small contingent. Fly fishing's pretty small as it is. It's growing now. Saltwater fly fishing even smaller, and people who permit fly fish, I mean, everybody knows everybody in permit fishing.
Okay.
Everybody knows the guides. Everybody knows the hardcore clients. It's just such a small fraternity of people that, yeah, if you're in that fraternity, everybody's got a number.
Yeah. What's your number, Will? How many have you got?
Right now, 199.
One? Not. Oh man. All right.
Yeah.
Well, can you bust through that 200 mark in the next couple of weeks? What do you think?
I got to tell you, man, it's the last several years. It's been tough. It's just been guiding a bunch, and I honestly fish more outside of Belize than I do in it. When I'm in Belize, I'm pushing a skiff. So the last one I caught, believe it or not, was last August. So it's been 14 months since I last caught a permit, and it's just the nature, having a family, having a business, pushing a boat all the time. You just don't get a lot of days on the water, and when you do, it's like 3-4 hours here where Magic Mike and I can run out, and
There you go.
it's tough to get out on your own. And when you do, it's usually not great weather. Fish aren't around. It just, every time Magic Mike and I try to go out fishing, it just seems like it's like dead calm, or it's raining, and we just never get the good weather. So, and I would rather have the good weather for our guests and clients anyway. But
Right.
all of us permit fishermen are trying to catch Sandfleet and Ward right now. Those two guys, they got a lot of fish under their belt, so we're all trying to catch those guys. Who
is Magic Mike?
Magic Mike's my right hand guy at the Permit Club. He's
okay.
Guide. Used to be at Turn F for a dozen years, and then joined up with me when we opened the Permit Club, and we've been inseparable ever since. We get along with everything that we do, except we're really opinionated on our basketball stars. He's a big Michael Jordan fan, and I'm a big LeBron James fan. And it gets heated. I ain't gonna lie.
Different eras, though, right? I mean, did those guys ever play? I don't think those guys ever played each other, or did they?
No.
Yeah, different eras, totally.
Yeah. So I mean, Jordan's got some records, LeBron's got some records, and he's still playing, continuing to break records. But if I hear Magic Mike say 6 rings any more times, I'm going to lose my
mind. Hey, don't punch him. You need that guy.
Yeah. No, he's good, dude.
Yeah, man. So a lot of the guides I interview, I don't always ask them this on the show, but I talk about like where they're going in the off season, and so many of them are headed to Belize. It's unbelievable. So, that's kind of part of the reason why I wanted to do a show, because a lot of my guides are going down there. And you fish all over the world, yet you've sort of set up your shop in Belize. And why is it in your mind, such a fantastic destination for permit and for bonefish and for tarpon?
I mean, one, it's easy to get to. No matter where you are in the United States, even Canada, you can get there in a day. It's not, you don't have to travel far. There's several flights daily in and out of Belize, whether you're coming from the East Coast, Charlotte, Miami, New York, or you're coming from Texas, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta. In the wintertime during the high season, coming from Los Angeles and Seattle. It's just easy to get to. And Belize is just this tiny little nation in Central America that has low population and has an unbelievable environment, both terrestrial and marine based. We've got, the jungle, the mountains, and just this second largest barrier reef in the world after the Great Barrier that runs, for the most part, the whole length of the country, 200 miles. So, 85% of that Mesoamerican reef runs right in front of Belize. So it creates this insane inshore fishery, shallow water fishery, and unbelievable mangrove habitat, reef habitat for those three species, bonefish, permit, and tarpon.
Okay.
So if you were to design a perfect fishery, it really is just that,
Right.
just a perfect inshore fishery.
That's what you need. You need a barrier reef to make it perfect. And tell us about the country, because it's actually English speaking, correct?
Yeah, so we were British Honduras up until 1981. So that was the English influence, and so English is the national language. Now they do speak Spanish more up in the north, and as you move more south, like south of Belize City, it gets more like Dangriga Hopkins. Sanebite is a lot of Creole and Garifuna. And then as you go all the way south, and then say more towards Guatemala, there you get a lot of Mayan dialects. So it's just Belize is just like this melting pot of people. It's great.
Yeah, including some Americans.
Exactly, and Canadians. Don't forget us Canadians.
Right, exactly. And so, how does the fishing in the north compare to the fishing in the south? Because you've got an operation in the north, the fly shop and guiding service, but then you focus on permit. It sounds like in the south. Is that correct?
Yeah. So in the north, it's kind of deeper water, more open water, limestone, a lot more mangroves. So it's really conducive to all three species. A lot of deeper water permit shots, a lot of roaming tarpon, a lot of juvenile tarpon back in the creeks and the mangroves, and the bonefish habitat in the north. Like behind San Pedro, all the way up towards Mexico there, Bacalar Chico, just great bonefish habitat in that limestone, white sand, white marl. And the further south you go in Belize, and the one thing is, in San Pedro up into Rocky Point, Bacalar Chico, the reef is really close. So the reef in front of San Pedro is only, 500-600 yards. It's close. It's right there. You can see it.
Nice.
The further south you go in the country, the reef moves off the mainland. So by the time you get to, say, the Sapodillas, Lime Keys, off of Punta Gorda, they're 30 miles off the coast. So that reef, as it goes south, moves further offshore. So the further south you go, it becomes more submerged coral flats, outer reefs, and really conducive to a lot of shallow water technical permit fishing, which is what we focus on at the Permit Club. Now, you can find bonefish, and you can find seasonal tarpon down there, either in the rivers or, during the migration, you can fish, some of the bigger channels and whatnot. But primarily, southern Belize is a permit destination. You can find bonefish and stuff off of or in behind Placencia and tarpon in the back lagoon there. Monkey River's got tarpon. But yeah, if you're a serious fly fisherman, you go to southern Belize to chase permit.
Okay. And so if I wanted to come down there and, maybe start with some bone fishing, maybe the northern fly shop would be the place to do that then. And
yeah, I would say if your first trip is to Belize and, you want to see the the plethora of the offerings. You know, you want to go to San Pedro, Kikaker, you want to stay there and be able to fish all those bonefish, jacks, barracudas, you know, resident tarpon up to 30, 40 pounds, you know, sea permit wakes, big permit schools, you know, a lot of juvenile permit up there in those bigger schools in that shallow water. A lot easier to see, white sand, big wakes. The permit are a lot harder to pick up down south unless their tails are out of the water.
Interesting. Okay. And kind of set our expectations. You know, I know that's hard to say a typical day because there's so much that goes into a typical day. But if I spend a couple days, 3, 4, 5 days with you fishing down there, I mean, am I going to get some shots at a permit? And, you know, and obviously landing one's a different story.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely going to get shots. You know, if the weather's good and everything and, you know, there's no hurricane coming.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to, if you're, say you come down, it's your first time saltwater fishing and you're in San Pedro, the boys are taking you out. I always tell people to go bone fishing the first day. You've never saltwater fished. You want to get used to the cast, seeing the bonefish. And the best practice for permit is bone fishing, you know?
Yeah.
Fish are shallow water. They're spooky. You learn presentation. I always tell people if you're coming down, just dedicate that day to bonefish. I'm not saying you're not going to catch a bunch of bonefish in the morning, and then maybe later in the afternoon you can go drift for some permit and see some permit and get some permit shots. And I'm not saying you won't land a smaller permit on your first day, but I always tell people to go bone fishing and get that dialed in, and then go chase permit and tarpon.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion, and that's my suggestion for whether I'm talking to you on email or I'm talking to you in person at the airport or I'm talking to you on the phone right now. That's just what I would do if you were going to go down for your first time.
Yeah. Hey anglers, are you looking for a darn near perfect cup of coffee to start your day? Then do yourself a favor and check out anglerscoffee.com. That's right, Anglers Coffee is made by anglers for anglers, delivered to your doorstep, one batch at a time. They start with the very best coffee beans selected for their great flavor and responsible growing methods. Then each batch is roasted fresh daily. The result is a wide selection of roast styles that will satisfy the most discerning coffee lover. And now you can enjoy Angler's Coffee anywhere, anytime with the Dry Dropper single-serving coffee in a tea bag. Just add water. And this isn't your mother's instant coffee. It's a single serving of carefully dark-roasted, fresh ground and nitro-sealed coffee. A percentage of each sale goes to some great nonprofit organizations that directly impact the fly fishing community. So head on over to anglerscoffee.com to check out their great selection of coffee and the organizations they support. If you're not 100% satisfied, they'll give you your money back, no questions asked. That's Angler's Coffee. It's darn near perfect. Hey anglers, if you're like me, you're always on the hunt for new trout streams to explore. But finding these hidden gems can be challenging. Well, not anymore, because there's a new app I highly recommend called Trout Routes. Trout Routes has mapped out every trout stream by state with detailed access maps for every stream. They have over 15 different map layers with hundreds of thousands of access points, color-coded stream ratings, public and private land, and more. Just this spring, I was in the driftless region of Wisconsin, and man, was it awesome to have the Trout Routes app on my phone to help us do some exploring. Trout Routes made it so easy to find new water and access points that we never would have known about. They also have local fly shops, the ability to take notes, and even local stream regulations, and you can download maps for offline use. Today, Trout Routes covers 25,000 trout streams in 34 states, and, big announcement, by the year end, the entire lower 48 will be added. So if you have an upcoming trip anywhere in the lower 48 or looking to explore nearby streams, I suggest you check out Trout Routes today on your Apple or Android phone. Don't leave home without it. Let's talk about the species, the permit species. So I have a lot of trout fishermen listening to the show because that's what I mostly focus in on. But can you tell us about the fish, about permit? Like how big do they get? Where do they hang out? And what are their food sources? That sort of thing.
I mean, so permit can grow to, 50, 60 pounds. Those are rare fish. Those are usually offshore, deep water wreck fish that you'd find in the Keys. Belize has a lot of juvenile fish. So we have a lot of fish in, say, the 5 to 15 pound range.
That's probably a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, those are great fish.
I mean, that's like a healthy fishery, I'm thinking.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough, I mean, you can find schools of hundreds of them if you know when to look, where to look. We ran into some schools in southern Belize this last summer, Magic and I did, that were just absolutely enormous. And you know, I think I think we pulled 33 fish in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I think Mike had a 17 fish week. I think it was 17 fish for two guys.
It's amazing.
So yeah, it's just, if you're lucky enough, you can definitely find those big schools. But yeah, 5 to 15 pounds. There's a bunch of fish in that range, and we do have the fish in the 15 to 25 that you can get shots at. A 20-25 pound fish on the fly is difficult. Those fish are smart. It's the smartest fish that swims, as far as I'm concerned.
Huh.
You don't land those fish all the time. You get shots at them, and they follow, but it's real tough to get those 20, 25, 30 pounders to eat the fly. Just wary of that artificial bug.
Yeah. So they're on the flats. Do they live on the flats, or they just come up on the flats to feed, or?
Yeah, I mean, permit fishing is all tidal dependent. So where we are in the south, it's those fish are coming up onto the shallow water flats, sticking their tails out because the water's there and they need to feed. And they're feeding primarily in the south on crabs. And, they might feed on shrimp if they're in channels, edges, wherever, or in big schools. But primarily in the south, they're feeding on those, size 6 crabs. And, in the north, it's a little different. You get the bigger ones on crabs. The schoolie ones are eating mostly shrimp. It's, mantis shrimp is a huge fly for up north. So if you're fishing San Pedro, a size 4 mantis in tan, white, olive, brown, those are go-to flies. Or if you're maybe more up north behind San Pedro on that limestone, say behind Rosario, Blackador, they might want a white or a tan crab. Some of those bigger fish out there, like a Drew's fly, the contraband, maybe a strong arm has been popular lately.
There you go. I wanted to ask you about some of the laws that Belize has passed to help improve the fishing, because it's kind of unique, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been catch and release only since 2009. That was a huge thing for all the stakeholders, lodges, guides. Just the government at the time recognized the economic impact of fly fishing for these 3 species, and decided, with consultation with all the local stakeholders, to make it a law in 2009 that bonefish, permit, and tarpon were a catch and release species only, and we're not allowed to be in possession of them anymore, to sell, to eat, anything like that. So that was the big one. And then just a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic, actually, the gill net law got passed. So now it's gill nets are illegal in Belize. And that was a big thing with all the stakeholders, all of us lodge owners, Turneff Trust, Alec Anderson, dealing with the government, and that was another huge hurdle that just benefited the sport fishery in Belize. So
that's huge.
That was a big thing. So those 2 things, in conjunction with all the local enforcement that we as guides do, and keeping people honest. You still have, bad apples that are still trying to gill net and stuff. And, you'll always have that, I think, no matter where you go. But the fact that it's a law now and that we can enforce it, and
it's great news.
The authorities can, it's a good thing. And I think as the years go by, it'll become better and better and better. And, it's a positive for Belize.
Yeah, that's huge. And how's the fishery doing in general, conservation wise?
It's good. Like I said, we're always fighting a fight somewhere. I'd say the biggest thing, like most places on the planet right now, is just development and loss of habitat. No matter where you go, in the tropics, people want to build hotels, condos, houses. And it's trying to find that balance and that sustainable use balance. And that's always the toughest thing. I know people have their land and want to build their hotel, or, and it's just trying to find that balance where, like, hey, let's not cut down all the mangroves. Let's leave
Right.
65% of them for the habitat. And, let's not do that. Let's not cut them all down and put up a giant seawall, which creates erosion, and, and go on and on.
Yeah, terrible.
It's like everything else, just trying to find that sustainable balance. Those guys in the Keys are trying to fight those cruise ships and that sediment, and we're fighting coastal development in Belize. And it's I think it's just the world we live in. There's always a fight to be fought. So it's I'd say that's the biggest hurdle right now, is just trying to find that sustainable balance.
Right. I mean, do you feel like Belize has sort of been found in the last dozen years or so, like getting much more popular than it has
Oh
been in
yeah,
the past?
yeah. I mean, it's getting busier every day, and with that comes those problems, right? Population density increases, and I think we're really lucky. We're surrounded by these nations with millions. We got Mexico to the north with 120 million people. You've got Guatemala with 4 or 5, Honduras with 4 or 5 million. It's just, we're surrounded by millions and millions and millions of people, and then we have 450,000 of us in Belize.
Yeah.
So we're lucky that way, that we don't have those population numbers. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting moving forward in the next 5, 10, 15 years, the sustainable use of the resource that we have, and as stakeholders, if we can, you know, that balance of just trying to find that sustainable balance, so we can all continue to do our jobs and continue to promote Belize and continue to make the marine and terrestrial habitat as good as it is for us, so it'll be there for our kids. That's the end goal, really.
That's great. Thanks for all the work you're doing down there to help with that.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to shift gears and just kind of hear your story a little bit, Will. So how did you go from British Columbia to Belize? What's the story there?
Long story short, came down here with a buddy of mine. It was just like, hey, I'm going to go bone fishing in Belize. Does anyone want to go? And I was like, yep. So came down here with my girlfriend at the time and my buddy for like a 9-10 day trip. And I knew on the second day that I was going to live here. And went to San Pedro back when it was sand streets. I think they were just, there was a big argument because they were trying to build the first 3-story building. So it was, yeah,
Sorry.
it was a big deal. And now you've got golf carts, paved roads, 5-6 story buildings now. I mean, it's definitely changed a lot. And, but that's exactly how I ended up down there, and then just basically started spending winters down here, and then, guide and trout steelhead back home, and then spending winters down here. And I made the move full time in, it was '08. I yeah, made my move full time down here.
Okay. Yeah, very good. And I'm curious, how did you get started with fly fishing?
Just, grew up on the coast of Vancouver Island, and it was just like was into salmon fishing. My dad was into fishing, had a boat, we had a camper. We never went to Disneyland or Hawaii or Mexico as kids. My dad, we were a single income family. My dad was canine SWAT guy. So it was just, he was always on the road with his police dog. And when he was home, we were camping, canoeing, hiking. I got instilled in the outdoors by my old man real early. We were cross country skiing, downhill skiing. My dad was ski patrol,
Oh, cool.
fishing, not so much hunting. My dad got a couple moose when we were kids, but it was mostly fishing because we grew up on the coast.
Yeah.
So yeah, salmon was a huge part of our deal in school. I did a salmonid enhancement course in junior school, which led to an exchange to Japan. And yeah, and then, like everything, you get to high school and you start chasing girls, playing sports. So fishing kind of took a back seat.
Right.
And then, in my early 20s, just picked it up again. And that's pretty much the end of that. Here we are 25 years later, trying to live the dream.
There you go. And you have fished all over the place. I think I just heard you say Japan. How did you end up in other places like I don't know, the South Pacific? I think you've been to, and how'd you end up fishing those places?
I sailed across the South Pacific back in '99 and did some fishing and snorkeling and stuff when I did that. Venezuela film shoot, Bahamas photo shoot, Bolivia just hosted trips with clients. A lot of my travel is hosting clients, like good buddies, good friends that have, through fishing via in my boat or at our lodge that have just become family. And we all go traveling together and just host trips and I've been really fortunate that way to see a lot of the world doing that, just hosting yellow dog trips for the crew over there. And I've gotten to see a lot of the world. Spent 4 weeks in the South Pacific with my good buddy Luke from Australia, guiding giant trevally on Canton in 2018.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a hugely crazy experience.
Yeah.
We flew 1,100 miles in a King Air over Pacific Ocean and landed on a World War II runway. It was pretty epic.
Oh my gosh. To go giant trevally fishing, huh?
Yeah, it was fun.
How does a GT compare to a permit?
They eat everything. I mean,
Oh, they do.
They're big, huge ocean-going predators that just eat anything that's put in front of them. Just crazy melt reels, break rods.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Now I read that you ate a barbecued jungle rat in Venezuela. What's the story on that?
That was on the Waypoint shoot with Confluence and Yellow Dog with Jim Klug and my buddy Oliver White. We ended up at Uraima Falls in the middle of the jungle in Venezuela, fishing for vampire fish, the Payara.
Yeah.
So was a crazy tough trip. It was very hard fishing, but we did get into them, and then the eating the jungle rat, the lava, I think the locals call it the lava, was just kind of a rite of passage. And they cooked it up and like everything, when you're immersed in culture, you got to try it.
Yeah. How was it?
Chewy.
Okay, chewy, kind of like octopus, or
no, not quite like that. I think they overcooked it, but
okay.
Yeah, it was. And the crazy thing about that trip was that last day, Hugo Chavez died. So we were sitting there on the last day of fishing, getting ready to pack up that night. 3 Army guys come out of the jungle and tell us that Hugo Chavez had just died. So it was kind of crazy flying back into Caracas a day and a half later, just to all that and trying to get out of the country and back home.
Yeah, I'm glad you made it out. It's not a place you can go now, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty sketchy right now.
All right, I got to ask you. I also saw some pictures online. You got a big tattoo in the side of your neck. What is that thing?
The goldfish.
Yeah, the goldfish. Is that what that is? Okay.
No, it's the permit tattoo I got a long time ago, just to
There you go.
Remind me of the pain and misery that this fish puts me through on a daily basis.
Oh my gosh! Is your wife all on board with the tattoo?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Funny as it may sound, it's on the side of my neck, and I never really look at it. And it's every once in a while, it's just a reminder that I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm blessed to be doing what I'm doing. And when I look at it, those odd times, that's what that makes me think about. That I really am really blessed to be pushing this skiff, chasing those SOBs.
How about that? Okay, and I got to ask you about the Costa Sunglass ad, because when you and I first connected, I said, I think this is the guy in the ads I've been seeing for, I don't know, a couple of years for the Costa sunglasses. This real hardcore looking guy. And I asked you, I said, yeah, that's me. How did that come about?
That was a weird story, actually. And it turned out to be one of the coolest interactions I've had with a film crew and just the people that were involved in it. So I was actually on my way back from peacock bass fishing in Colombia, and I ended up getting a phone call. I was in Houston at a buddy's house, and it was Costa and the people from Farm League. the filmmakers, and they wanted to come down to Belize, or they were coming to Belize, and they wanted to shoot the new Costa campaign for those who breathe water. And so they wanted to come down and fish. And so they planned this whole thing. And we'd planned to have some people down, and all the photo shoots and film stuff that I've done has always been small. It's always been like a couple anglers and then like a photo guy and maybe one or two video guys. I mean, this production was enormous. They had dozens of people, a director of photography, assistant director, prop director. I mean, it was a serious deal.
Like all for you?
No, I was going to get into that. This was one of the coolest thing about that whole thing was it was several of us. So they sent Camille down from Bozeman, Camille Egdorf, Camille McCormick now. So her and I were the fly fish entity. And then they sent Kimmy from Hawaii, the spearfisher, Mark Healy, who's like this ultimate big wave surfer, spearfishing guy from Hawaii. He came down. They sent Perrin James, the videographer. He's just unbelievable if you've ever been online and see some of his work, underwater work, and I think he might be a Nat Geo explorer actually. But cool. He came down. I've always loved his stuff, so it was nice to meet him and Mark and Kimmy, the surfer fisherman from Costa Rica. I think his name is Ricky. Yeah, so it was just like this cool group of people that I would have probably never really run into in my day-to-day activity, just because we're fly fishing and these guys are surfing big waves and shooting underwater videography. Just I would have never met them otherwise. It was just cool to actually put a face to the name and just actually get to meet those people. That was the best part of that gig.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Just seeing all those guys and girls.
Do you remember your first permit?
Not really. There's permit that stick out in my head, but honestly, I could probably tell you that it was a smaller one and I caught it on a shrimp. I couldn't tell you. I know I caught it in San Pedro, probably on the backside. But yeah, I couldn't. There's a few that's you actually. Funny enough, I remember the ones that I lose beside the boat, the ones I go to grab that pull the hook out. The giant ones that you just you work your whole life for, and I don't know how many 25, 30 pounders that have spit right by the boat that you just have to sit down for 30 minutes and just question your sanity.
Yeah. Give us a story of maybe one of those more memorable fish.
Oh, there's been a lot. There's the, catching multiple fish in a day, which in southern Belize is not too common. It's, like those days, like, Magic was telling me, those days he caught like those 8 in one day. Catching 8 permit in one day.
Wow.
I've seen happen in like Ascension Bay. I've seen it happen, behind San Pedro, smaller fish, but catching 8 in one day in southern Belize that's a rare thing. And so, that sticks in my mind a lot. Jen, it didn't even happen to me. It happened to Mike, So,
yeah.
Thinking about that and thinking about how I would react to that, keeps me up at night. But yeah, just things I remember most is the interaction with clients and, especially when you fish guys multiple times a year and watching them progress as anglers. One thing that stuck with me the last couple of years is fishing with Robert Lee. He's a lawyer from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and he only picked up a fly rod about 4 years ago. And he called Yellow Dog 4 years ago after I think he went on a one bone fishing trip to the Bahamas. It was like, I want to catch a permit. Who do I need to go see? And I'm serious. I want to go see somebody. And they pointed him towards our direction, and I fished him. And he's become a great friend, family, and he comes fishes with us 3-4 times a year now. And just watching his progression, his first trip, he saw a ton of fish. We never landed one in a week.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And he basically, at the end of that week, he's like, Will, I'm here for the long term. what do I need to do to get better? What do I need to do? And we just changed it for him. I was just like, you need better equipment. You need to practice your casting. You need to take casting lessons. And he went, I'm not kidding you. Robert Lee went full send. I mean, he went
Did
and
he?
bought the best equipment.
Checkbook first.
Yep. He took it seriously, and now he's a permit addict now. I mean, he fishes and goes other places too and catches GTs. And I think he was just in Sudan, or he actually just caught his first golden dorado in Bolivia.
Oh, cool.
But he got serious about it, and he's gotten, I don't know how many fish he's got now, 10 fish now. But yeah, we caught, him and I caught what, 2 or 3 in one day. Yeah, it's just, he's serious about it, and it was just nice to watch that progression and watch a guy suffer through the intros of permit fishing and stick with it.
Yeah.
And feel proud as a guy that, you were part of that. And that's my favorite thing about fishing, is watching people improve and watching people suffer and sacrifice and get beat up on the boat and weather and just get refusal and break fish off and go through the whole gambit and finally put hand to fish and watch that smile. And then they let it go, and then we're all miserable again. That's
back to zero.
That's my favorite part of what I do and why I do it every day.
That's cool.
I go out every day not expecting to catch a fish. That's just the name of the game.
They're a bonus.
And it just makes every one that you finally get to the side of the boat that much more special. And I think that's why there's very few of us that do it. I think that's why there's very few hardcore permit clients.
Right.
And it's just, it makes it all worthwhile in the end. But yeah, watching Robert, go through that whole thing, it's, if you're listening, Robert, I'm proud of you.
Well, good. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and get a little technical here. So I'd love to hear kind of the keys to success, and maybe break this down. Like, how do you, let's start with the approach, like, and maybe even start with what good conditions are, right? So I know tides are important. What else is important in terms of conditions?
I mean, for first time people, you need the sun. Permit fishing on cloudy days is tough. Permit fishing is tough as it is when the sun's out. You have a cloudy day, we can be showing you fish all day long. And you're not seeing them. That's a tough thing. People get frustrated.
Okay. And sun gives you see a shadow. Is that what happens?
Yeah. It's just, they reflect everything. They reflect their surroundings. So I can tell you at 25 feet that there's a permit tailing, in 3 feet of water. You're not going to see his tail, but, you're going to be like, where is he? And I'll point your rod, and you'll point your rod. I'm like, he's right there. And you're like, I don't see him. And it happens more often than not. It's the hardest thing is to pick them up. But yeah, perfect conditions for me would be, sun, good morning tide, and wind out of the sea east, 5 to 15. And I would say a high tide around, 8, 9 a.m. That way you can be out at dark, fish that incoming, fish that swing, fish that outgoing till noon, and be home.
Okay.
It's where the heat of the day gets in. I always tell people fishing in Belize is in the morning. You can catch them in the afternoons if the tide's right, but you get that glare, especially if the wind's coming from the east. You're just, you either got to be pulling straight into the wind, or you're pulling downwind right into a glare and you can't see anyway. So I like the morning fishing. That's my favorite thing. It's not uncommon for Mike and I to get up at 3:30 in the morning in the summertime and be on the water driving in the dark and literally making our first cast at 4:45, 4:50 in the morning when the sun hits the water.
That's awesome. What about water temperatures?
Permit like warm water, so optimal range, 80 to 85 degrees. That's why my favorite time of year in Belize is the summer, because that water hovers around 85.
Okay.
And they prefer that. The water temperature right now, it's cold front season, so we're getting a lot of rain. There's that hurricane hit today, so it's just that fishing's going to be not good for the next few days until that water turns itself over, tide goes in and out, and that ocean water mixes with that fresh water coming out of those rivers.
Okay.
It's, the salinity is going to get weird, and that fresh water is just going to, cool the temperatures down. So, those temperatures are going to be, ocean surface temperature. I don't even know what it's going to be right now, probably low 70s.
Yeah.
It's just going to be, that far, especially if you're measuring it right coming out of the river mouth, it's going to be cold.
Okay. Well, what is the prime season for permit, or is there a prime season?
I mean, Belize, we got them all year long. Like I said, it's weather dependent. This time of year, November, December, January is cold front season, just like you'd get in Florida, Texas, and the Gulf Coast. So, if you hit it between cold fronts, you get that warm weather, it's sunny, fish got to eat. So if you hit it those days between cold fronts, it's good. But if you just have, there's a good chance if you come down for a week during those few months, you might lose, 2 or 3 days to weather just from rain,
Yeah.
thunderstorms, cold water, but if you hit it pre or post, fishing could be lights out.
Okay.
So our dry season runs kind of February to June, where it's, bluebird skies, scattered clouds, mostly east southeast wind, and little to no rainfall. And then we get our summer season where it's hot, warm, usually have early morning thunder showers, and then it's bluebird for the rest of the day.
Gotcha. Okay. And let's talk about your approach. So you're in the skiff, you're poling, you're up. I'm assuming you're up high, trying to spot permit. Like, how does that work? Because aren't the permits super aware of vibrations and movement? I mean, how are you actually pulling that off if you're way up high in a poling skiff?
The Panga's a big machine. It's not like a Hell's Bay. It's, 16, 17, 18 foot long.
Yeah.
It floats. Believe it or not, our boat's fully loaded with gas, fuel, cooler, beer, guide, 2 adults in the front. It floats in 5 inches of water. That thing floats shallow. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
It's a machine upwind, just that long, narrow water line. It pushes upwind really well. You got to watch out for hull flap, but you just become accustomed to trying to position your client in the best possible position and get as close as you can. People have this misconception that you need to cast 90 feet for permit. You need to cast 90 feet for permit when it's dead calm.
Okay.
I always tell people the windier the better for permit fishing for me. People see dead calm, like, 2 or 3 knots, and the ocean looks like it just got ripples on it. It's sunny and everyone's like, oh, it's going to be great. You're going to see a lot of fish, but you're not going to be able to get anywhere near them. You need to make 90, 100, 110 foot casts. They can see everything. They can hear everything. When it's 10 to 15 knots of breeze, yeah, you may have to punch a 30, 40 foot shot into the wind, but you're going to be able to land it there and they're not going to spook, right? They're not going to see, hear that line. So, the windier for me, the better. That's why I like that
Okay.
east 5 to 15, sunny skies.
Gotcha.
The average shot at permit, I would say, is 30, 40, 50 feet.
Okay. That's bad.
You got to be accurate.
Okay. And where are you placing your cast for a permit? It probably depends on what they're doing, but talk about that a little bit.
That's the hula hoop rule. Wherever that permit is facing or feeding, you need to put that fly in the hula hoop in front of its face. If that fly is anywhere out of that zone, your chances go down.
Okay.
That fish is nose down, looking at that one area hula hoop, looking, eating, feeding. You drop that thing 4 feet short, it's not going to see it. Especially, you try to pull that slack out, you just pulled it a meter away, so now it's 6, 7 feet away.
Right.
Idea is to get that fly line straight, that leader straight, have that straight connection and land that fly right in that hula hoop, let it sink, and then strip accordingly. But if you're outside of that hula hoop, the very good chance that fish isn't going to see your fly.
Yeah. Is it hard to stay calm when you finally got a shot at one of these guys? People get nervous?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people get the jitters. It's especially if you've never seen them before. It's your first time, and you get on the deck of a boat, and all of a sudden you have 30, 15-pound permit waking at you. People just they lose their cast, they get nervous, and then they line them, they miss them. They're 10 feet left, 10 feet right, way short. It's just it definitely gets nerve wracking.
Yeah, I'll say. So accurate casting is important. And then in terms of your flies, do you have flies with different sink rates? And talk about that a little bit, your fly selection.
For the most part, you don't need lead. It's not like Florida Keys, like say you're fishing, 4, 5, 6 feet of water and you want to get that thing down because the fish is on the bottom, and they're bigger flies there. And usually you're fishing a bigger fish there. But, smaller flies, smaller weights, like in the South, we're using size 6, might go up go up to a size 4, but size 6 crab is kind of what we're fishing in southern Belize. Up north, you're fishing size 4 shrimps, maybe dumbbell eyes, nickel, brass, whatever. Those shrimp are in the top of the water column, so you don't really need a heavy fly.
Oh, okay, interesting. And when you're for crab fishing, so you cast a crab out there, you let it sink, and then what do you do from there? Like, what are the techniques to get the
Small
permit?
strips,
Do they
very small
small
strips.
strips? Okay.
Yeah, crabs when they're fearing for their life swim to the bottom. So you want it to drop and drop away. So just short ticks, slow, and I'm talking slow, very slow. Like chances are, if you think it's slow, it should be way slower than that. Like I have people stripping, and I'm like, slow it up, and they're like, hey, I'm going slow. I'm like, no, you're not. Slower.
No, not enough.
Yeah, crabs are stripped slowly. Shrimp more erratically and faster.
Very good. And what's your setup? Rods, reels, lines, that kind of thing.
I'm usually 95% of the time I'm fishing a 9-weight Scott.
Okay.
Right now on my boat, probably a 9-weight Sector or Meridian, and paired with a Cortland Tropic Compact. And I've got my Hatch 9 plus, and probably depending on the conditions, I'm usually fishing a 10 or 12-foot leader. Longer if it's calmer or the fish are more spooky. And I'm usually fishing 12 or 16 pound.
Okay. 12, 16. All right. Are they leader shy at all?
It depends, shallower the water. Yeah. Less wind, they feel that line. So, I mean, if it's like super calm, I'd go 15 foot, 12 pound, and a light fly,
would? Okay.
maybe even a floating crab, just trying to at least get that follow, right? At least get them interested. You can't plop a size 4 Dembo eye with a 9-foot leader when it's blowing 2 knots out. They'll blow out. As soon as that fly hits, they're gone.
They're gone. Yeah. And on those calm days, are they also seeing the shadow from the line on the bottom?
Yeah, it's just like you can see everything and hear everything, and so can they. So saltwater fly fishing, calm days are the worst.
Right. And if you're banging around in a boat, that can't be good either, right?
No, you gotta be like a ninja on the deck.
Okay. And what do you tell your anglers to get ready, like in terms of line management, that kind of thing? How do you get an angler ready for all that?
I mean, permit fishing's a lot of tarpon too. I'm sure you pull vast distances for permit, and it's a lot of just monotony, just standing there, scanning, looking. So yeah, I usually have my guy, have 6-7 feet of fly line at the tip of the rod, holding the fly.
Okay.
On the lean bar, and usually 50 feet of fly line at least, stripped out on the deck, waiting to go, and yeah, ready to cast.
And before they cast, I'm kind of curious what the conversation is as you're heading out to fish in the morning, particularly with a new angler. I mean, what are you trying to explain to these guys first?
Yeah, I'm just, a lot of people, when I show them the fish, they want to cast right away. And I try to get people to break that habit. You don't want to do that. I want to get the boat in the right position. I want to make sure that your line's right. There's times where it's like a fire drill where you just have no choice but to cast right away because they pop up 15 feet from the boat.
Wow.
But yeah, if we find fish and they're at 80 feet and we can position the boat the best way and get the angler to glare, hold that boat, they're coming towards us. I can stop the boat and wait for them. You know what I mean? Like, get the angler prepped mentally, which is a huge thing. Those fish at the side of the boat, very rarely are they ever caught, just because it's like, oh my God, they're right there. And it's just like they blow out and you just like have no idea.
But you got to cash for them though, right?
Yeah. But you got to, absolutely. But if you can prepare, and, the biggest thing is mentally getting your guy in the zone, breathe. This is how I want you to do it. They're going to come like this. They're going to follow the edge of that flat. I want you to put it 2 feet in front of them, and I don't want you to do anything. I want, if I see that leader straighten out, I just want you to leave it there and let it sink. And, you're giving them instruction constantly.
Okay.
And you become a good pair partner when that communication gets dialed in. And it's tough to do with new clients, and usually right when you get, comfortable with each other, it's time for them to go home. You know what I mean? Like the first couple days, you're feeling each other out, getting this cast dialed in because maybe he hasn't saltwater fished in a year. And, by day 3 or 4, you're finally finding their groove. And then you finally are starting to fish together really well by day 4, 5, 6, and they got to go home again.
Right. And there's got to be a knack for you as a guide to be kind of barking out orders at your clients. Sometimes it's rapid fire, like you said, and other times maybe not, but there's got to be a knack to doing that in a way that, you're not driving them crazy.
Yeah, I mean, permit fishing's intense, and people have told me all the time that I'm intense, and it's just like I want to catch fish as much as you do.
Right.
And it's finding that balance, that client guide balance, is always a tough situation, especially if it's somebody new. But and people come to the lodge, I tell them straight out, I'm like, listen, the first 2 days is we're getting used to each other. You're getting used to the boat. You're getting used to this new fishery, and by day 3, 4, 5, and 6, that's your window. Not saying you might not catch one in day 1 or 2, but you're
Right.
feeling everything out. And like I said, a lot of people only get to fish salt water 1 week a year, right? They come
Yeah.
down for 1
If
week,
that.
and that's their
Yeah.
window. Now you play weather into that. They might lose a day or 2 for weather. Now you're only down to 3 or 4 days. It's a numbers game. So, it's go fishing when you can go fishing. That's what I tell everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. So what kind of a fight does a permit put up? When you hook these guys, what do they do?
I mean, they vacate the flat.
Is that right? Heading out to sea?
In northern Belize, there's not really a lot of stuff to hook up on. Most of the time when you get a fish in, you hook a fish, and you get a good hook set and the hook's in there. Very rarely do they come off. It's wide open usually. They're in a channel, a deep flat, out in that limestone. They might rub it out maybe on the rock, if you get one that's being like that. But most of the time, once you get a good hook set and you get the flies in there, it's very rarely they come off unless it's an angler error or something, like you give them slack or too much pressure and you bust them off. Southern Belize is a little different story. You've got those deep water flats come out of 100 feet of water to 2 or 3 feet. So the first thing they want to do when they hook up is run through all that coral and then go right off the edge of that flat and take your fly line and leader right over that sharp edge.
Yeah. Good luck.
And then if you can survive that, then the real work begins. You get them off the flat. You're in that deep water. Now you're pulling them up like a tuna. They're straight up and down, right? So
Oh,
you're just
really?
pulling on this table,
Okay.
and you lose some. The hook pulls out. They roll the leader, put pressure the opposite way, pulls the hook out. So yeah, there's a lot more things that can go wrong, I think, in the South once you get that hook in them than in the North.
So tell me again, the South, you like the South, the permit clubs in the South, and it sounds like the South is much harder, and there aren't the big schools of fish down there. Did I hear that correct?
I mean, you can find the big schools, but it's absolutely way more technical of a fishery, a more shallow water fishery. You'll get schooling fish swimming in 5 to 8 feet of water behind San Pedro in a channel, a little more forgiving,
Okay.
whereas fish are in 1 to 2 to 3 feet of water on these coral flats, super spooky. They're feeding, they're shallow, they're every shadow that goes by. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
definitely a lot more forgiving up north for sure.
So maybe more of a classic permit fishing experience down south?
Yeah. I mean, shallow water, definitely. Yeah.
Shallow
it's
water.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you like to see their tails out and they're in 2 feet of water, Southern Belize is where you want to go.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Will. Let's say you're booked the week they're coming there. What should your guides, what kinds of questions should you guides be asking to find, what kind of questions should your customers be asking when they're trying to find a guide? How do you do that?
I mean, research is key. I get this question a lot. It's like, what's the difference between a $300 guide or a $600 guide? And that's exactly it. You're getting a $300 guide, not a $600 guide. That's the best explanation that I've come up with in my career. And I've dealt with it, whether you're trout fishing, whether you're steelhead fishing, whether you're permit fishing,
Yeah.
it's like,
Don't go cheap.
and everybody's on a budget. I get that. And the reality is if, you choose a $300 guide, you're getting a $300 guide. Maybe he doesn't have insurance, the right equipment, the right boat.
Yeah.
$600 guide's going to have insurance. He's going to be registered, licensed captain, have all the safety equipment, the best equipment. That's usually the difference right there. And you're getting a $300 guide or a $600 guide. So, and
Okay.
that's the difference there.
All right. Let me ask you this. Gosh, you've been fishing all your life, and I'm curious. Like, can you pull some life lessons from fishing, from fly fishing, maybe from fly fishing for permit? Like, what has it taught you?
How to manage my patience
Is that right? Okay.
It's honestly, I wake up every day and I'm just blessed to be doing what I'm doing. The people I've met in this industry, whether it's been other guides, clients, lodge owners, cooks, dock people, it's just, I'm just really happy to be doing what I'm doing, and I want to do it as long as I can. But yeah, the people in this industry are second to none.
That's great.
They're friends, and a lot of them become family. And I've built these relationships with everybody over the years. And honestly, I wouldn't be where I am without those. And that's the most important thing about this industry is those relationships that you have with these people that turn to your friends, and some of them become family. You're sending pictures of your kids, you're hanging out on holidays, you know what I mean? Like you're calling them at 11 o'clock at night, to update them on whatever's going on in your life. And,
Yeah.
it truly is a blessing, and I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else, really.
Yeah. The right guy for the right job. That's fantastic. Let me ask you this about Belize itself. Like, if guys are coming down or people are coming down with their spouse, is there something, if their spouse is a non-fisherman, is there some things for them to do down there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you have a spouse or you have young kids, there's lots to do. Like I said, that barrier reef, there's so much, the marine activities you can do, snorkel, you can dive. The diving is unreal. Fly fishing, reef fishing. You have jungle tours, zip lining, cave tubing, kayaking, sailing. I mean, it's just, there's a plethora of activities and opportunities for kids, wives. If you want to come to San Pedro and you want to fish, but your wife just wants to sit by the pool all day and drink
Yeah.
margaritas, which sounds just glorious, then absolutely that can happen.
Okay. And it's safe too.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's bad apples everywhere, and you got to use your common sense. Like you're not going to walk around, downtown Belize City at 3 o'clock in the morning with a wad of cash.
Right.
That's just no brainer.
And are there good places to go, at the end of the day for, good restaurants and
Oh,
places to get a
yeah.
drink and something to eat?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
the food and drinks in Belize are exceptional. There's great food to be found everywhere in the country, and it's not expensive.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. And what are some of your favorite places?
In San Pedro, I mean, I used to love Rojo Lounge, but it's my buddy Jeff. I don't think it's open anymore. But El Fagone, shout out to my people at El Fagone. They cook a lot of their stuff on the stone hearth. So yeah. And hey, this is if you're ever going to El Fagone, you want to hit up the bartender and get a pineapple ginger mojito. You're all welcome.
That good, huh? There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like El Fagone. The place that opened up a little bit ago, I don't think they've been open maybe several years now. The Sandbar Hostel, they've got some good pizza there. That's a good spot. And all my people over at Blue Water Grill, they've got great sushi night there. And I've been spending a lot of time down south, so I haven't really seen what new restaurants have come out in the last several years. I mean, I've been pretty much at the Permit Club the last 6-7 years, and in San Pedro, every month or so. But yeah, Blue Water Grill, El Fagone, those I eat there a lot.
Okay. And you've got a fly shop in the north, right? So can people walk in there? Could a do-it-yourselfer walk in there and say, "Hey, man,
Yeah,
dial me in," and you can send
yeah.
them out there, and okay,
A lot of people. San Pedro's known for its DIY. Rent a golf cart, go up north, south, on the backside, Secret Beach. Yeah, our shop's open Monday to Saturday. We're closed Sundays and holidays. We're open 10 to 5. Got huge. We're just a destination fly shop. So we've got Sims hat, shirt, buff, good selection of flies, leaders, lines. That's what you're going to find in our shop because everybody brings their own stuff, right?
yeah, like day of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no sense in me carrying a dozen Scott fly rods because no one's going to buy them there. They all come down with their own stuff. We used to have a huge fly tying selection, and I was the only one fly tying back in the day, so I got rid of
Is that right?
So yeah, we're a destination shop. If you need a couple extra leaders, some tippet, some flies, a shirt, a hat, we got you covered.
Okay, sounds great. Well, how can people get in touch with you, Will?
You can find us online at www.belizefly.com. You can find us on Main Street in San Pedro, right across from the town square, Tres Pescados Fly Shop. 226 Fish is the phone number there. You can find us in southern Belize at the Fly Shop in Hopkins on the Resort Road, and the phone number there is 523 Fish. And about a mile down the road from that is the Belize Permit Club. And all the info, like I said, is online, belizefly.com. You can find us on Instagram at BelizeFly, and also on Facebook and Twitter.
Oh, very good. All right, you got it covered. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
I appreciate it, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. I wish you extraordinary success in all your adventures to follow. And folks, thank you for listening. And we'll be sure to post all Wil's contact info and fly shops and whatnot on the Destination Angler show notes and pictures of his top flies on our Facebook and Instagram pages. You can DM me or email me with comments and suggestions at shaig50@gmail.com. Hey, if you like the show, please share it with a buddy. As always, our music is by our Brothers Fountain. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again soon. Tight lines, everybody.
Well, I'll go from the land to the shining sea. But I know there's more to life than what the eye can see.